And in terms of that action that we took as the Board of Eskom, we, as I indicated previously, we met as the board soon after the 22nd February 2020, soon after the February interview, and on 22 February the board convened a special meeting to discuss the contents and the utterances that our then outgoing GCE would have made in the interview that he had regarding Eskom. At the commencement of that board meeting, Mr. de Ruyter was afforded the opportunity to speak and give his perspective in terms of what had taken place. He confirmed that indeed that interview that everybody saw had taken place, and he stated that if the board considered any of the contents of the interview to have caused an embarrassment to Eskom, he would be agreeable to variation of term in terms of his notice period, which at the time was 31 March, and that notice period would then revert to the non-extended date of 28 February 2023, this being in line with his resignation letter of 12 December 2022. After he recused himself from the board meeting, the board deliberated on the matter, and the board came to the conclusion that some of the utterances he made brought the company into dispute, and therefore resolved to agree to the variation of his notice period. That's my concluding remarks. I will clarify this further. The board made further then resolved to release him forthwith from his obligation to serve the remainder of his notice period with immediate effect. In the handing over of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into state capture on 29 April 2022 by Justice Zondo, subsequent to that, Eskom then created its own internal task team on state capture. And as at that time, Eskom and the Special Investigative Unit, SIU, had already recovered up to 2 billion rands in Eskom funds that had been unlawfully paid out, for instance, to Deloitte, McKinsey, ABB, and Miagra Transport CC. And so the board was informed in depth, the new board, of what the previous board had done in terms of oversight around that state capture task team. As you will recall, the new board assumed office in October 2022, a few months after the task team had been put in place. That report of the task team had already been submitted in July to the Public Enterprise Department, which the board had sight of. So in terms of what the board knew about any of these illegal allegations that had been made, that was contained in that report. And so when the board said the then GCE had brought the company in disrepute, it is because a good number of the allegations that were tabled misled the public as if there were new developments that had been shared firstly with the board. That was not the case. Secondly, it would have misled the public in indicating as if though there was no action taken internally by Eskom and all concerned. Further to this internal state capture and corruption task team that followed after the assertions, we asked, following those assertions, we asked the internal state capture and corruption task team to look further into whether indeed there were any other matters that the board may not be aware of that could not have been cited in all these various documents. The board further resolved that it is important that in keeping with exercising our fiduciary duties and responsibilities, that an independent legal panel be appointed where you could have perhaps a senior counsel or someone senior in the legal profession that could revisit everything that has been done to date by both the internal state capture task team and any other investigations that Eskom would have done internally, to look at whether there's anything further that the board should be doing in line with exercising its fiduciary duties and responsibilities. And where we are with that independent task team, it is going through the normal procurement processes of ensuring, led by our head of legal, who sadly couldn't be with us today. She's suffered ill health. She's bedridden as we speak. But the process is underway to ensure that that independent panel is appointed, reporting to the Audit and Risk Committee chair of the board, to ensure that a full and comprehensive independent investigation is conducted, so that we can, as it were, connect the dots and ensure that there's nothing left unhandled in line with our quest to eradicate corruption inside Eskom and any forms of wrongdoing.